The first time I met her, she was like an angel, even looked like one. Those beautiful blue eyes, that blonde hair. It felt as if she had looked straight into my soul. For the unfamiliar, Reiki is a form of alternative therapy, rooted in the energy healing. But every light casts a shadow, and in this world of energy exchanged, not all things that glimmer are golden. The idealism and adoration for my Reiki Master blinded me. It taught me a lot about myself, though, and quite frankly, it hurt me. I remember the first time I met her. She was like an angel. She even looked like one. She had beautiful blue eyes and blonde hair. I felt like she really cared. I found her on Google, and without doing much research, like most of us, I booked an appointment. She was so kind to me. This was the beginning of her Reiki business. And as most of us, when we first start off, we go above and beyond. She saw something in me that needed immediate attention, and she offered me a Reiki for free. I felt like it was really selfless and like she really wanted to help me. She saw something in me, something that whispered of vulnerability. She offered me a session. It felt selfless. Or was it? I adored her so much, I would refer everyone to her. I brought both of my siblings. I talked her up to anyone that would listen. I even invited her to be a guest speaker at my opening for my own Reiki business and a guest to my then podcast called Beyond Meditation. As months turned to years, the facade began to crumble. Her once clear guidance became a perplexing maze. The angelic healer's true face began to peek through. On one occasion, I recall, I asked her, "How often should I come to see you to get my Reiki reset with energy?" I distinctly remember her response was, "Anytime you feel like you need it. Don't worry about it." 3 years later, she invited me to a group Reiki share where someone asked the same question, and she said, "Well, some people come every week, others once a month, and some people like Jazzy come once a year." And she laughed. I felt embarrassed, like I had done something wrong, as if she was mocking me and laughing for my infrequent visits. That was red flag number 1. And pretty soon, all the red flags started to come one after another. I was no longer invited to Reiki shares. She said I didn't need it, but excluding me without giving me the opportunity to say no felt like it was so harsh. She started a meditation one day with, "I hate when people are negative." And she said it multiple times. It was really off-putting to start a meditation in that way. There were several times over the course of our time together, she would ask me about how I was doing and what I was up to, and I would share with her in all my excitement of the courses and new metaphysical concepts I was learning, and she would tense up, roll her eyes, and say something like, "I don't understand why you feel like you need to continue to learn more and more." a shot through my heart. I thought that she would be so proud of me. She would be intrigued. She would ask more questions. I noticed my need for approval was growing. Perhaps that was my mistake. Sometimes the red flags look green. I reasoned with perhaps it was her culture. Maybe she's having a hard day. She just didn't seem to understand, and that was okay. Still, I trusted her, and she became my Reiki Master. I did all levels with her 1, 2, and Master level. It was such an incredible experience spiritually. This is something I will never forget. The more and more time passed, the more ego-based comments I noticed. That seems like the opposite of what a healer or Reiki practitioner is supposed to embody. The signs were all there when she started to exclude me from the meditation group. There was one time when she had asked us to place our intention on someone very specific and asked for us to share what we experienced during the meditation. I very courageously said, "I saw the Strength Tarot card." She asked, "What's that?" I said, "Oh, it's the 8th card in the Major Arcana that depicts the woman holding the mouth of the lion open." She interrupted me and said, "No, no, no," and called on one of her friends. "So-and-so, you know tarot. You tell us what it means." It really felt off-putting. Her friend looked surprised also, being put on the spot, and ended up agreeing with me. She ended up saying, I don't know what that means," and moving on. Nevertheless, I would go to her once a month to reset my energy, and I would join her Monday meditations. I went to her with the intention of healing myself and continuing to clearing and lessening my ego. In fact, for about a year, my intention for Reiki was to quiet my ego and to open my compassion. I recall one day I went in with that same exact intention, and she convinced me that I no longer needed to quiet my ego, that was not what I was supposed to be doing. Hindsight is 2020. Nobody in the world can tell you what your own intention should or should not be. One day, I'm talking to her about my workshop at the Conscious Life Expo and my Shamanic Academy studies, and she rolled her eyes and said, "I don't understand why you need to do so much." It broke my heart. I felt like bursting into tears, and I started to explain to her that I love learning, and part of my search for understanding my grief with my grandmother, as she had recently passed, was to learn more about my Indigenous roots through the Shamanic Academy. She responds with, okay." But the most chilling moment came during my final session with her. The last time I booked a session, I remember being on her site and grappling between an in-person session or an online session, which I never do unless I'm sick. I personally like to do in-person sessions. And for some reason, my intuition was stirred up and I couldn't decide. And I finally said, okay, I'll do an online session. I went to the session, and she has her hand over her chin with one finger on her cheek and says, "How can I help you?" in a very matter-of-fact voice. It startled me because normally we sit in catch up. We chat for a bit. So I'm thinking, okay, she's having a bad day, or this is a very limited time that she has. I'm starting to tell these stories to myself. So I go on to tell her, well, my grandmother's 1-year anniversary is coming up and I'm feeling the grief a bit heavier. So I want to release and clear today. She says, okay. She softened a little. Again, I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt, and I'm not paying attention to my own intuition, and I let her move forward with the Reiki. I could feel an incredible energy coming through, one that I've never felt before. It felt so good during that session. And I wake up with all of these amazing visions and beautiful angelic sounds in my ear. And at the end of the Reiki, she asks, "What did you feel?" And I tell her about all the beautiful things that I saw and everything that happened during my Reiki. And she says, that's very interesting because I felt nothing. Which is a really interesting thing to say to me because we have discussed not feeling anything and the Reiki energy just doing what it needs to do, and the client feeling all of it. So it was a very strange comment to receive. She continues, and there were all these women doing things over your body. She, of course, was describing the practices that we're doing at the Shamanic Academy, the way that we do alignments. I've been doing them for over the last year. And she goes on to say, and it's not good. She then says something very strange. So I'm sitting there, feeling myself out of my body, trying to collect myself from being in this deep meditation, this deep receiving of Reiki, thinking I had just gotten some deep healing, not just thinking it, but feeling it too. When she says to me, I haven't healed since the last time you were here. My heart sank. What do you mean? I said. Well, I pulled something out of you and it jumped to me and I'm still recovering. I thought she was there to help me, to guide me. As a healer, you learn not to project your fears and your mistakes onto others. But that day I realized she was as lost as the rest of us, maybe even more. I asked, "How do you know it was from me?" She says, "Because you were the last client I saw that day." I think for a second. I inquire and investigate further. "How many clients did you see that day?" She said, "I had 3 clients." Well, did you cleanse and protect yourself between clients? No, I didn't have to do that. I do it in the morning. And I thought that was enough, but maybe it wasn't. So let me get this straight. She is blaming me for something I did not do. I had no intention, no conscious awareness. I went there to get healing. I paid her to get healing and to clear and cleanse me. And she did her job, but didn't do a proper cleansing or protection. And now she's blaming me. It just doesn't make any sense. There must be something deeper. The thing that made me feel even more betrayed was that she still took the appointment and did the Reiki, feeling the way that she did about me. Because at this point, it is clear to me that she blames me for something that happened in the last Reiki session. And yet when I showed up, or when I booked, she could have easily sent me an email or had told me it is not in alignment. It is not for us to do this Reiki at this time. But yet she chose to do the Reiki on me and then project blame onto me for whatever it was that was going on with her. She goes on to tell me that she's done several sessions to remove this, and it's still with her. Also, by the way, about a year ago, she had the same exact thing, but from a different client. So this is not the first time something like this happens to her. So I said to her, you know more than anyone I know how important it is to protect ourselves, to cleanse and clear before and after a client, especially since this has happened to you before. This is a crucial part of our practice. I would never do anything like this to anyone, and you don't even know that it's from me. Silence. I continue. This is a lesson for both of us. Also, you have seen and felt how protected I am. And for context, there has been multiple discussions over the last 7 years of how protected I am. She has felt it, she has acknowledged it, she has seen it with her own eyes. And she agreed with me in that moment. Yes, I know, you've always been very protected. And she starts to cry. I just don't know why anyone would do this to anyone else. I told her that I hope that she feels better soon, and I wish her well. And then we hung up. I felt so betrayed in that moment, to be blamed for what she was going through, to be judged in such a way that was harsh, and even more so for her to do the Reiki on me, knowing how she felt about me. So I tell you this story not because I think she's a bad person. In fact, I think she wants to help people. But I tell this as a cautionary tale. When we go to healers, we must ask the question of what is their belief system, because I personally do not believe in curses. I am so well protected. I am so in my bubble, and I have such strong boundaries that is not in my belief system. When we go to healers, we must notice their verbiage, notice their responses to things, and how they treat other people. Is it in alignment with who you are? How do they make you feel? Because that was my mistake. I wanted to believe that she was for my highest and best, but the way that I felt when I was with her did not match the things that she said and the things that she did. I put her on a pedestal and I idealized her. Healers aren't perfect. They are human. So maybe your Reiki teacher or spiritual teacher has a bad day. But if it's a consistent theme and your gut feeling doesn't go away, it's time to investigate. To me, a healer is a person that is able to give a different perspective and be able to listen without judgment and full acceptance of who they are and who they are in service to. They are the conduit between spirit and you, so that you can heal yourself. If they believe that they are able to heal you, that is coming from ego. We are all connected to spirit, and we all have the ability to heal ourselves. Now, here are the major red flags of my story. The first one being changing standards and guidelines. Initially, she responded to my question about frequency of visits from anytime you would like to later contradicting this and laughing at me and implying that regular visits are needed. The second thing is exclusion and lack of transparency. I was no longer invited to Reiki shares. She just removed me from the list. She removed me from the meditation list as well at some point or another. And then I had asked to get put back on that list. And she would do it reluctantly. But I still wanted to go to the meditations because that was giving me a bit of a spiritual growth. And one thing I did not mention in my story is that she would often talk to me about her clients, sometimes in a negative way. Not only is that unprofessional, it speaks a lot to the trustworthiness, right? The third thing is negative or judgmental remarks. Starting a meditation with, I hate when people are negative, is not consistent with the supportive and positive energy most associated with healing. Now, here's the thing. Like I said before, spiritual teachers are not perfect. So sometimes they are going to have an off day or show themselves in their humanness, and that's okay. We must all use discernment and see the bigger picture. The fourth red flag is dismissive or lack of respect. Not only was she dismissive of my eagerness to learn, instead of being supportive, she would, roll her eyes, interrupt me in the middle of my stories or my excitement. I remember one time when I first set up my brick and mortar, I was so excited and I really wanted her to come and experience it and see it. And as I was inviting her, I said, so-and-so, I really want you to come and see my... And before I could even finish my sentence, she said, yes, yes, yes. And she would wave her hand as if it was nothing and would say, yes, yes, yes. Don't worry, I'll see it. It was really disheartening, and it really spoke to the disrespect. Ego-driven comments. True healing often embodies selflessness, humility, and an absence of ego. It was very clear to me in my story that this is the opposite of that. Number 5, ignoring intuition. While this is more of a lesson than a warning sign, the story emphasizes the importance of listening to one's intuition about a situation or a person. Go with your feeling. Become an expert in your emotions and how you feel around people. Number 6, blaming the client. So this is Ethics 101. A healer should never blame a client, especially without evidence. Doing so breaks trust and can emotionally harm the client. I was very hurt by her accusations. I cried for weeks, not just because of the things she said, but the thought of hurting anyone consciously or unconsciously weighs deeply on my own heart, and being accused of this bared a weight on my soul. It caused deep emotional harm. Number 7, lack of preparation and self-care. This is one of the biggest ones for healers out there. It is so important to cleanse and clear before and after every single client. Not cleansing and protecting between clients is negligent, and she admitted it in her words to me, that she only did it in the morning. She had 2 other people before me and did not cleanse and clear. And this is especially true if the healer believes in energy transfers. Number 8, inconsistent experiences. I had such an inconsistent experience with her. If a healer's reaction and energy feel inconsistent from session to session, it is a warning sign. Number 9, defensiveness and lack of accountability. Instead of acknowledging her lack of protection or considering other potential reasons for her condition, because remember, she's had this exact condition before. She claims to have gotten it from a different person. And she's blaming me for it. She immediately blamed me for it. So there's this sense of victimization. She's not taking any accountability or personal responsibility for not cleansing herself, for not protecting herself. This statement still rings in my ear. You know, I still haven't healed since I last saw you. These are all signs of an unhealed person and someone that can do further harm or damage to someone that is seeking help or healing. It is essential for anyone seeking healing to pay attention to warning signs and trust their instincts. Just as with any profession, there are individuals who may not be as skilled, ethical, or well-intentioned as others.